Turn heads and bring the hype with a custom hype chain from Lotwin. Perfect for youth sports, fantasy football, or just flexing your pride. Go to Lotwin.com, use the promo code TCCPOD for 10% off your order. That's Lotwin.com, promo code TCCPOD for 10% off. Get your custom hype chain and get hype with Lotwin. What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for August 5th, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Tuesday edition of the podcast. It is Tuesday, so it's time for a little motivation / positivity, brought to you, as always, by the Clashing Conferences Sports Fan Network. This Day in Philly Sports History is proud to be a part of the Clashing Conferences Sports Fan Network. Go to theclashingconferences.com for details on how you can get it joined and what they have to offer. But a good group of people, lots of sports talk. So if you're into sports, want to get your opinions heard, go to clashingconferences.com, see how you can join. All right, today, as has been the case, is one that really speaks to me, so I figured I'd share it with you. And especially this time of year, everybody talks about the Sunday scaries. I get the August scaries because school is coming back, means summer hours are over, and all of the stress and drama and just craziness that is the beginning of the school year. But a lot of those things I don't have control over. So today's quote, and I saw a couple different versions of this, but if you have zero control over something, it deserves zero control over your attention. And I think the message here is simple. Control what you can and just let the rest play out. Now, we've been talking the past few weeks about being prepared and ensuring that when things do arise, you're able to properly navigate them. But in reality, life's going to hit you. It's going to hit you out of nowhere. And there are things out there that you can't control. So there really is no sense in stressing it. Be prepared for some of those things, but again, just let them sort of play out the way they're going to play out, because they're going to happen one way or the other. Whether you're worried about it, whether you expect it, whether it comes out of left field and hits you with a left uppercut, either way, it's going to happen. And this is good in life, relationships. You can tie it to relationships. You have no control over others and how they act. You, though, have the choice to decide how you continue on with those relationships, who you let into your bubble, all those other things, but you can't control that. So no use in stressing and wallowing in what could be. If you're not happy with something, let it go, move on, but empower yourself to take control of your life. As I said, all things, life is going to challenge you. Sometimes big, sometimes small, but the challenges are going to happen. To me, it's about how you face those challenges that is different and makes the difference in how you respond and how you move on. Because we all face them. And some people seem like they've never had a bad day in their life. Some people, you would think they're the most miserable people in the world. And that is a decision. That's a choice that people make. So just remember, if you have zero control over something, it deserves 0% of your energy. Don't stress on things you can control. This is very similar to the Serenity Prayer. Control the things you can, focus on them, and put yourself in a position to be successful when the unexpected happens. So if you don't have any control, if you can't control what happens, it doesn't deserve any control over your attention. So that is today's Tuesday motivation positivity, much needed as we slowly approach the end of August, or get into August, I should say, and the August scary, so to speak. So take that with you as you go through your weeks. That is your Tuesday motivation positivity, brought to you as always by the Clashing Conferences Sports Fan Network. Now, what a game for the Phillies. Schwarber had himself a day. MVP chants were happening at the stadium, which Kyle Schwarber has quietly crept into the number 2 betting spot for favorite for the National League MVP. Still a long way away from where Ohtani is from a betting mark, but it's almost as though Kyle Schwarber was like, I like August this year instead of June. He has been unstoppable so far in August. 2 home runs yesterday, 40 now for the year, including a grand slam that broke the game open as the Phillies go on to win 13-3 over the Orioles. Bryce Harper, Harrison Bader, who had his first home run as a member of the Philly. Weston Wilson, Sammy Sosa, and Mundo Sosa also went deep for the Phils. Looks like hitting season is happening, as Charlie used to say. Jesus Luzardo struggled a little bit early, but then settled in nicely. And listen, this is a solid win. This was a very good win. They did what they needed to do against a team that they should have done it against. The Mets also lost, so that lead in the NL East is now up to 1.5. Taijuan Walker is on the mound tonight, but a good win for your Phillies. Kyle Schwarber is just an absolute beast. And I have to mention this because I thought it was great. I saw this a couple different places on Twitter last night. Basically said Harrison Bader looks like everybody on the 93 Phillies had a baby together. Gotta love a guy like that. He just looks like a hard-nosed throwback type player. And it does seem between him and Duran that there is a little bit more of a swag coming toward this team. And this is what they've been lacking for the better part of a year and a half. So play this man every day. Topper, he hit well against a right-handed hitter yesterday. You didn't do your normal, I'm going to play the matchups. And, I mean, Max Kepler is hitting 100 or 200. So the decision is clear. Start Bader every day. Get Kepler out of here. But good win for the Phils as they increase that lead to 1.5 games. All right, and then yesterday I started to get into this, and I was like, you know what? I'll save it for tomorrow. Because I didn't want to take away from Jimmy and Ed Wade, but the Phillies Wall of Fame. I've done this rant before, probably the past 2 years, to be completely honest. But I think it's oversaturated, and I get that they want to have somebody to honor and things to do for Alumni Weekend. But I don't know if you need to put somebody in every single year, or maybe you have the Wall of Fame, but maybe do like a Hall of Fame or something, because J-Roll likely, and we'll get more into the question of the day, is not going to get into the Hall of Fame. So does he deserve his number to be retired? Absolutely. Are the Phillies going to do it? Probably not, because they have the long-standing rule that if you can only get your number retired if you're in the Hall of Fame. They sort of went back on that for Dick Allen, but it played out that Dick Allen did get in the Hall of Fame. But I feel as though Jimmy Rollins needs to be on a different level than guys like Juan Samuel. And truthfully, even to a certain point, Ed Wade. And this is not knocking those guys, even though last year I went on a whole Juan Samuel rant. But you need something. Like, J-Roll is in a different class of players than what Juan Samuel is. Ryan Howard is going to be there very soon. Cole Hamels is going to be there very soon. Chase Utley is going to be there very soon. Likely these guys are not going to be Hall of Famers, but they need to be elevated a little bit more than that. So I don't know if it's just you suck it up and you retire the numbers. I think they've soft retired them, but I don't know. I don't know where putting at least one person in every year. Maybe you just keep it at one person, and maybe you do have some down years. And again, this is not taking anything away from Ed Wade, but that should have been strictly a Jimmy Rollins night. And yes, I know that the two are very intertwined, and that's probably likely why they did it. But Jimmy should have had his own night. And the fact that he's kind of considered in the same class as a guy like Juan Samuel, quite frankly, it's a joke. I mean, they're, again, not taking anything from Juan Samuel. Longtime Philly. He was a good contributor for bad teams. But J-Roll is just a different class. And maybe it's because I'm very close in age to Jimmy. And those teams from when he was good in his prime meant so much to me. But that sort of, like I said, I almost felt it took away from it. Now, the night itself, the production and his speech and everything they did was top notch. So the Phillies do a good job when it comes to honoring their alumni. Having all those guys back the entire weekend, it's great. You love to see it. But I just feel like there needs to be tiers because obviously you have Schmitty, Carlton, Ashburn, those guys, Dick Allen, with their numbers retired. But there needs to be something else for guys like Rollins, for guys like Utley, for guys like Howard, Hamels, that, yes, they're very damn good. Not quite Hall of Fame, but they're also a tier above. So I don't know what that looks like, and I don't want to take anything away from the way the Phillies did it because I always think Alumni Weekend is great and the way they handle things, but I don't know. Maybe I'm being overly sensitive about it. I'm recording a little earlier today because I got to go into the office. So maybe the coffee hasn't kicked in and I'm being just a little cranky. But let me know your thoughts on that because I do feel as though there needs to be a tiered Wall of Fame, tiered Hall of Fame, whatever it is. Maybe statues out in Ashburn Alley. But again, they try to save that for the absolute legends. But, excuse me. As those guys from the '08 team are kind of getting there, I do feel as though not only because they won the World Series, but because their level of play. Ryan Howard was on a Hall of Fame trajectory until the Achilles injury. Chase Utley certainly has a case for the Hall of Fame. But to be sort of lumped in with the other guys and in that big pool, and especially when you've had a team that's been around for 130 some years, you're going to have a big pool of players that are certainly deserving for the Wall of Fame, but you have to differentiate, I feel, from the Hall of Fame all-timers to the all-time greats to the best of the rest, so to speak. But let me know your thoughts on that. Hit me up on the Back to the Future voice and text line, 267-495-8531. Again, maybe I'm being a little cranky and overly sensitive about it this morning, but I don't know. I think it makes sense. I don't know what that looks like. I don't want to be, well, you know what? Put me in charge of it. I'll figure it out. So Phillies, if you're listening, I'll kind of help tier the Wall of Fame if you want. I've covered enough Phillies on this podcast to kind of throw my hat in the ring as a Philly sports historian. All right, but speaking of J-Roll and Utley, let's recap yesterday's question of the day. I asked you, of the two, which has a better Hall of Fame resume? 83% of you agreed with me and said it was Jimmy Rollins, and I think a lot of it is the eye test. And again, not a knock on Chase Utley at all. I know there's some stats that he blows away. He was very clutch, specifically in the postseason. But if you're looking at body of work and where they rank, I think the correct answer is Jimmy. But thank you as always, to everybody who participated in the question of the day. There'll be another one here later in the show. Eagles made a trade overnight, I guess, last night. I woke up to the news of this. They traded Thomas Booker for Jacory and Bennett, a cornerback from the Raiders. And that has been the one spot that everybody's been watching is corner. And apparently the guys are just not, Keeley and Adoree Jackson are just not stepping up and ready to take that position by the horns. And I have a friend who is a big Raiders podcaster, big time Raiders fan, messaged me. I woke up to a message from him and he was like, man, it's a tough one to lose him, but Pete Carroll likes bigger corners. But Jacory and Bennett is a dog, so this could be a good move. I feel as though, based on everything I've been reading and seeing, this could be Bennett's job for the taking if he comes in and is able to assimilate into the Eagles or Vic Fangio's system. I'm a little cautious because the last time we got a cornerback from the Raiders, it didn't work out too well. But I think this is one of those low risk, high reward moves and how he tends to make it this time. So if Kenny King is saying he's a dog, I'm going to go with Kenny and say, welcome to Philly, Jacory, and it is your job if you want it. But we'll continue to monitor that as things go. All right, let's do some housekeeping. Obviously, follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mott on Twitter and TikTok. On Instagram, @PhillyJimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mott, and continue to spread the word as we grow this thing. I feel like every day we're getting new listeners. So if you're new, welcome. We are glad to have you. And if you want to see highlights, I have them on my social media, including Facebook and LinkedIn. Just go to check them out. A lot of times I'll throw photos, video clips whenever I can find them, and all kinds of good stuff. So go check out for highlights and photos on my social media. All right, let's get into the top 5 of top 20, the first 25 of the century. And man, lots of feedback yesterday on the top 5 Philly sports villains. A lot of people questioning why Ben Simmons was not on the list. And I started to think about it, and I certainly see the argument that he could be top 5. He did get an honorable mention, by the way, so it wasn't like I did not consider him. But I think for him, a lot of the good that he did do, believe it or not, he did do some good things, kind of pulled him off of the top 5. And the only one I maybe would have taken off for Ben Simmons would have been Danny Ainge, but I just feel like Danny Ainge is like the quintessential, has the face of a villain. I look at the villains as guys like that have punchable faces, and Ben certainly has a punchable face, but Danny Ainge, and just he's got that weaselly little like just, and that's why I put him on there. But for those of you who did reach out about Ben Simmons, I hear you. He was number 6 on the list, so it wasn't as though he was completely forgotten, but I just don't quite think he made the top 5 for me. However, I certainly could see the argument. At one point yesterday, I'm like, maybe I need to revise this and put him in, but I'm going to stick with my original list, and that's the great thing about lists. You can have your own, and we can have a good debate about it and have some fun. If you want to have some fun, go to the Discord channel, first link in the description, and let's talk some Philly sports. All right, today we're going to look at the top 5 disappointing athletes for the first 25 years of the century. And there was plenty to go by on this list. Obviously, this one could be these are honorable mentions. Could be a little incomplete depending on how things go, but I'm kind of just projecting it out that it's going to go more of the same, and that's Paul George. I had Jalen Reagor as a possibility. Adam Eaton, who somehow still has a World Series ring from 2008. Ilya Brizgalov, all the potential in the world, and then just kind of was a head case. Nnamdi Asomugha, last time we got a cornerback from the Raiders. That's why I'm a little bit hesitant on Bennett, but I know that was a completely different story. DeMarco Murray, again, take your pick. I know there's a lot of people that could have been honorable mentions that at the end of this baseball season, we may have a little bit more there. But those are the honorable mentions. So let's get into the list. And as you know, my feelings on the Philly sports teams, first love Phillies, true love Eagles, and then the crazy X is the Sixers. So on a list of disappointments, we're going to see a lot of Sixers. So let's start with number 5, Andrew Bynum. So much hype. The announcement of the trade at the Constitution Center, all the injections into the knee, the hope, will he, won't he, all of this, and then to kind of have an end because he hurt himself bowling. And one of the only guys on this list that didn't even play a game, but I think with all of the hype that came in, especially with where the Sixers were, and if because of this trade not working out, it kind of fast-tracked the process. So Andrew Bynum takes the number 5 spot on the list. Number 4, Markelle Fultz, and it ties directly to Danny Ainge. I still feel somehow he and the NBA and the Colangelos colluded on this. They knew what they were doing. They were pissed off about the process. But then, of course, Markelle Fultz, who was consensus number 1 overall pick, gets a mysterious injury, forgets how to shoot, and we know what happened. I believe he's still playing, not living up to number 1 pick status, but he is still playing. But Markelle Fultz for me, because you were supposed to have Markelle, Ben, and Joe as your core 3, and then that would have been when we could have started adding some of the free agents and things like that. But you take the number 4 spot. Number 3, Dom Brown. And for all of the hype, for all of the years about how Dom Brown is untouchable, he comes up and has a good May, basically a 6-week stretch, made an all-star team, and then was just a guy. And nice guy, I'm sure, but as far as the play on the field, has to be a top 3 disappointment, because at the time, Ruben Amaro could have included him into some trades to get some more prospects back before he was called up, which would have helped replenish the farm system, and then maybe we wouldn't have been through what we went through pre-Bryce Harper. But Dom Brown takes the number 3 spot on the list. Number 2, Carson Wentz. And for all of the hype after the Super Bowl year and the MVP talk and then the injury, and then he just, I don't know what happened. He got inside his own head. Had some good moments after that, but I think with all the hype and the way it ended, of course it ended up good for the Eagles because of Jalen and winning the Super Bowl last year. But Carson Wentz takes the number 2 spot on the list. And then obviously, speaking of hype and unfulfilled expectations, the number 1 disappointing player since 2000 is Ben Simmons. And went from rookie of the year, defensive stud, to basically hiding at midcourt when games mattered. And that is something I'll just never be able to get over with him. I know there were talks about, oh, maybe we could bring Ben. No, I do not want Ben Simmons back, because I cannot get over that whole Atlanta Hawks series, the videos of cooking in the gym and all of that stuff. So there is the top 5 list for the most disappointing players since 2000. Andrew Bynum, Markelle Fultz, Dom Brown, Carson Wentz, and Ben Simmons. So who did I miss? Who would you have added? Who got left off? I went through the honorable mentions. Again, who did I miss? I mean, you could have thrown like Danny Tartabull in there. There was all kinds of guys that could have made it, but these 5 are my top 5 most disappointing players from the year 2000. And that does lead to today's question of the day. Wentz or Simmons? Who was more disappointing? And I mean, I think it's Ben Simmons, hands down, but you could certainly make a strong case for Carson Wentz, and I would not argue that hard that Wentz was not the most disappointing, especially in a city where Eagles are king. But that is the question of the day. 267-495-8531 is the Back to the Future voice and text line. You can talk about it on the Discord channel, any of my social media. But which player was more disappointing, Carson Wentz or Ben Simmons? All right, yesterday's trivia question. I asked, who are the top 5 in Phillies career doubles? That would be J-Roll, Ed Delahanty, Mike Schmidt, Bobby Abreu, and Chase Utley. Want to show off your Philly pride without saying a word? Philly Goat has you covered. From tees, hoodies, shoes, and hats, their gear screams Philly louder than an Eagles fan at the vet. Whether you're tailgating in South Philly or trying to flex down the Jersey Shore, do it in style. Hit up phillygoat.com, use the promo code Jim Montgomery, and get 10% off your order. Philly Goat, because being Philly ain't a choice, it's a way of life. Go Birds! All right, August 5th. Let's first go back to 1921. And on this day in 1921, it was a big day for Major League Baseball. The Phillies lost to the Pirates 8-5 out at Forbes Field. But this game was huge because it was the first Major League game that was broadcast play-by-play on the radio. KDKA in Pittsburgh had Harold Arlen broadcast the game from a little field box with a makeshift phone that he used as a microphone. And the rest, as they say, is history. And to me, obviously, with all of the technology we have today, watching a game on TV is just outstanding. But there's something to me nostalgic and just comforting about listening to a game on the radio, whether you're sitting out back, mowing the grass, riding in your car. There's just something that kind of is nostalgic or Americana about listening to a baseball game on the radio, having an ice cold drink, whether it's a beer, iced tea, lemonade. There's just something about that. And that all started on this day in 1921 out in Pittsburgh as the Phillies lose to the Pirates 8-5. But the game of Major League Baseball and being able to get listeners and fans involved in games instead of just reading in a newspaper changed the game forever on this day in 1921. 6 years later, the Phillies were back out at Forbes Field. This time they won 9-7. Cy Williams became the first Philly in the modern era to hit for the cycle. He did it in 4 at-bats and had 6 RBI as the Phillies won 9-7 over the Pirates. 2 players had hit for the cycle back in the 1800s, but Cy Williams becomes the first modern player to hit for the cycle for the Phillies. And then we're going to move all the way up to 2014. Phillies beat the Astros 2-1 in 15 innings. Ryan Howard with a walk-off single that scored Grady Sizemore in the bottom of the 15th to win it for the Phils. But this game set a record as it was the 887th time that Ryan Howard, Chase Utley, and Jimmy Rollins started together. They passed Steve Garvey, Davey Lopes, and Bill Russell for the Major League record for games started by a first base, second base, shortstop combo. Hard to believe that those guys were together for that long. And again, that's why I say that core needs to have something more special than just a Wall of Fame inducting. But that happened on this day in 2014. Phillies win it in 15 when Ryan Howard walks it off, his 887th consecutive game he started with Chase and Jimmy. And then finally today, our trivia question. Going to do a little Orioles since the Phillies went off on home runs yesterday, hitting, 6 of them. What 3 Phillies? So for those of you who don't know, Phillies and Orioles have a long history. They played each other in the 83 World Series. So going back to that 83 World Series, what 3 Phillies hit home runs against the Orioles in that 83 World Series that the Orioles did win 4-1? Get your answer into me. Excuse me. One of these I did not even think would have been on the list. 2 of them I did have, but who do you got for the 3 Phillies who homered in the 83 World Series against the Orioles? Be sure to like, review, subscribe, leave a comment, all that other good stuff as we try to outsmart the algorithm. Don't forget, if you're going to the Jersey Shore, there's still time to use Beach Caddy for your move-in, move-out, as well as your beach cart rental. Use the promo code Jimbo to take an extra 15% off of those services. They'll hook you up. Trust me. On this day in 2014, Phillies beat the Astros 2-1 in 15 innings, but it was the 887th consecutive time that Jimmy Rollins, Chase Utley, and Ryan Howard started a game together. 1927, Cy Williams becomes the first modern Philly to hit for the cycle in a game. And then in 1921, the game of baseball changed forever as the Phillies lose to the Pirates 8-5, but this game was broadcast on KDKA radio in Pittsburgh. First time a Major League game had been broadcast on the radio, opening up the game to millions and millions and millions. Let me know your thoughts on the top 5 disappointing players. Who did I miss? Who should have been on there? Get those thoughts in. Good, like I said, good discussion yesterday about the villains with Ben Simmons. So let's keep that rolling today. Like I said, I may have missed some people, but those are the guys. And I know you can make the argument that technically Andrew Bynum did not play, but because of all the hype, that's why he made the list. We'll have more on the Phillies Orioles tomorrow, as well as any news and notes from Eagles camp. But Jacory and Bennett, welcome to Philly. Essentially, the job is yours for the taking if you want it. Remember, if something deserves 0, or if something has 0% in your control, it deserves 0% of your attention. Don't focus on the things you have no control over because, as they say, shit's going to happen. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for August 5th, 2025. My name's Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Tuesday, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.